Should you sell ladies' clothing or men's clothing? There is an answer, and it really does matter which one you choose. If you haven't dived deep into either, let me tell you, there's a lot of money in reselling clothing, especially right now when prices are so high. People are losing jobs. The economy's been bad for 3 or 4 years. People want pre-owned clothing. People want cheaper clothing. They're going to places like eBay to find it. You should be able to supply some of that. Go where the demand is. So if you've never sold clothing in the past, if you've been afraid of it, I think you should change your mind and consider looking into possibly selling a little bit of clothing, at least at first, and see how you like it. But you should choose one, men's clothing or ladies' clothing. As for me, I've got this strange relationship with clothes. My fitness instructor, he advised me, I couldn't believe it. He told me that I needed to wear loose clothing whenever I'm exercising. And I said, hey, Buster, I wouldn't have joined a gym if I had any loose clothing. So there's that. If you specialize in electronics, home goods, or anything like that, every sale you go to is pretty much going to have clothes. It may not always have electronics. The next sale you go to may not always have the type of home goods like Limoges trinket boxes that you specialize in. If you have a general knowledge about some types of clothes, then wherever you go sourcing, just about you're always going to come back with something. Now, if you just want to sell a few clothes once in a while and you run into some, you sell them. It really doesn't matter, ladies or men's. Just knock yourself out, sell whichever one. You're going to look up comps whenever you see a bunch of jeans, whenever you see jean shorts, which, by the way, this time of year, it's right before summer now, and jean shorts sell pretty well, and you'll usually find them at garage sales for very little money. And you'll find them at garage sales really in the fall and winter when they're not in demand. That's the time to pick them up because they'll sell this time of year. But again, most sales are going to have some sort of clothing, and so you should know a little bit about clothing and have a preference. If you start selling more and more clothes, you probably will naturally just develop a preference. You'd like to resell men's or ladies' clothing. Now, if you have a knowledge about one, if you know everything about ladies' clothes, you should sell those. You're ahead of the game before you even start. You know about styles and brands and all sorts of things like that. Or if you're kind of a men's clothing aficionado, you should maybe always look for men's clothes. But if you're one or the two of those, if you know a whole lot about ladies' clothing or a whole lot about men's, you probably already sell one or the other. But the more you sell clothes, the more you're going to need to move, I believe, into one or the other. I think you need to lean towards men's or lean towards women's. Here's how you know the difference. Let's talk about ladies' clothes. More ladies' clothing is sold all over the earth than any other product on the planet. Ladies buy a lot of clothes. They like their clothes. They pay up for them. They want higher quality in general. They need to fit well. Ladies really spend the money on clothes. So that's where the biggest demand is. But that's where the biggest problem is too, if you're just comparing ladies versus men's. Men, we hardly want to return anything. I mean, if those jeans sort of fit, if they're too big and we can cinch up a belt, we'd rather do that the rest of our life than return a pair of jeans. If a jacket kind of rubs under one arm for whatever reason, we're far more likely to put up with it than a lady would. Ladies really notice little problems with their clothes. Men, we're really hard put to notice any problem with anything like clothing. It's just the way we're wired. Now, ladies sell more clothes. That's for sure. Ladies buy more clothes and ladies' clothing sells far more than men's. But you're going to have a lot more returns with ladies' clothing than you will if you sell men's clothing. I prefer men's clothing because of that. Plus, there's so much to learn about ladies' clothing. So many things, so many brands, so much stuff. Now, that also would make it more interesting than men's clothing. You'll never learn it all. It'll just be a fun hobby the rest of your life to sell ladies' clothing and just learn about it every day. Just study it for 30 minutes a week. Learn a new brand, learn a new style. Do a deep dive on sold comps of certain ladies' clothing on Lululemon and learn about what sells better than others and keep your eyes open. Keep a little journal. I suggest you keep an Evernote file for things like that. Evernote is a little note-keeping tool that you can have on your phone and on your desktop. And if you make a note in one place, like on your phone, it's also going to appear on your desktop. And I like to keep all of my sourcing notes in Evernote. I have a lot of sourcing notes on ladies' clothes. But I still prefer men's clothes, and I have a lot more notes on men's clothing because I just like the easier nature of men's clothing. It's less hassle to sell men's clothing. You're going to have fewer returns. You're going to have fewer negative feedbacks, but you're going to have less money. Ladies pay up for clothes over men. Men don't pay up for clothes. There's another advantage to that, though. Men's clothing you can source for cheaper than ladies' clothing. Men's clothing overall is generally on the secondhand market, at garage sales even, flea markets, thrift stores, at estate sale. Ladies' clothing generally will cost more than men's clothing. So you make more with ladies' clothes, but it costs you a little bit more. You make more with ladies' clothing, but you have to learn a lot more. You make more with ladies' clothing, but you're going to have more returns. You're going to have fewer problems with men's clothing. It's not quite as interesting. And the more you start sourcing of clothing, the more you really need to decide which one. It's pretty tough to do a lot of ladies' clothing and a lot of men's clothing. It's tough to do a lot of both. It's hard to be a master of both. Now, if you don't know much about clothes, you can still source, you can still learn, and you can still make a lot of money. Even with men's clothing, there's always going to be a men's clothing Carhartt jacket or something at a sale. There's always going to be clothes, both men's and women's. But in general, you're going to start selling a lot more of one or the other depending on your preference. If there was one answer, then people would only sell one, right? If ladies' clothing were the answer and you just make a lot more money with ladies' clothing and you find a whole lot more whenever you go out to source and you're going to make a lot more sales and you're going to have a lot more returns and it's going to cost you more. But if you really work it, you probably will make more money with ladies' clothing and it's more work. But if you focus on men's clothing, you're going to make a lot of money. You're just going to have a little bit less work to do, but you're going to make a little bit less per item. But it's going to cost you a little bit less. And again, I wish there were one answer, and I really don't like to say it depends, or it depends on what you want, depends on what you prefer, but it does. And it depends on if you don't sell either right now and you start trying different things, it depends on what you end up liking better. This is really an it depends answer that is reasonable because it does depend on where your priorities are. But now you have just a little more knowledge than maybe you had before on which one you might prefer to sell. Again, if you generally don't sell clothing, you should try a few and see how you like it. I want to say one more thing about clothes and eBay. If you sell pre-owned clothing, it needs to be clean. It needs to be washed before you sell it. That's the rule. Used to, eBay would require that you state an item has been washed. Now eBay doesn't have that requirement that you state it has been washed. You probably should still state that. Buyers will appreciate the fact that they're not going to get a stinky cardigan sweater. Yeah, even cardigan sweaters need to be dry cleaned or something if they're pre-owned. That's the rule. eBay says you must wash all clothes that is pre-owned before you sell them on eBay. So that's a little hassle, right? You don't have to wash a valuable 8-track tape with Miles Davis on it that was never recorded on any other media. That thing's going to be worth some money. You may have to rub some dust off of it or rub a mark off of it or something, but in general, you don't have to wash it. Clothing is more hassle. Clothing is more money. In general, you're going to make more on clothing in general than any other item overall that you find a lot of. So it's worth deciding, it's worth thinking through clothing, it's worth trying clothing, it's worth trying men's and women's, it's worth deciding what do you like best, what is your business like, do you mind the hassle for more money, would you like less hassle for less money? That's how you decide whether you want to sell men's clothing or ladies' clothing.